There are things we never say, not because we don't know how to say them, but because once spoken, they would change something that we are not ready to change. Most of our lives are built not on what we express, but on what we carefully keep inside. We learn early that silence is safer than honesty, that being understood is a luxury, not a right. So we adapt, we edit ourselves, we soften our thoughts until they become acceptable, until they stop disturbing others, until they stop disturbing us. But silence is not empty. Silence is crowded. It holds every sentence we swallowed, every question we were afraid to ask, every truth we postponed for later, as if later was guaranteed.
We often tell ourselves we are quiet because we are wise, but more often we are quiet because we are afraid of being rejected, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid that if we speak honestly, we might lose the version of ourselves that others have learned to tolerate. So we perform. We become functional version of ourselves, good enough to survive, not honest enough to feel alive. And slowly, something strange happens. We forget which thoughts are truly ours and which ones we borrowed just to belong. We start speaking in rehearsed sentences, opinions we inherited, beliefs we never examined, moral positions that feel correct but never feel earned. This is not hypocrisy, it's conditioning. We are not taught how to think, we are taught what not to question, and questioning has a cost. To question is to stand alone for a moment, to admit that you don't fully know, to accept that certainty is often an emotional comfort, not an intellectual achievement. That's why silence becomes attractive. Silence keeps things stable. Silence keeps relationships intact. Silence keeps identities untouched. But it also keeps us fragmented. Because the unsaid does not disappear, it leaks. It appears as anxiety without a clear cause. We call it stress, we call it exhaustion, but often it's the weight of everything we never allowed ourselves to articulate. And here is uncomfortable question. How much of who you are is actually chosen, and how much is simply unchallenged habit? We like to believe we are autonomous thinkers, yet most of our strongest convictions were formed long before we had tools to question them. We defend ideas we never examine, relationships we outgrow, and identities that no longer fit, simply because letting go was required admitting that we have changed. Change is not painful because it hurts. Change is painful because it exposes. It forces us to confront the distance between who we are and who we have pretending to be. So we delay it. We tell ourselves we will be honest one day, that we will speak freely when the time is right, that we will become ourselves after this phase. But phases have a way of becoming lives. And one day silence stopped feeling safe. It started feeling heavy, not dramatic, not loud, just heavy. That is usually the moment people confuse awakening with crisis. They think something is wrong with them, but often something is finally right. Because discomfort is not always a sign of damage. Sometimes it is a sign of awareness. The unsaid begins to demand the space, not necessary to be shouted, but to be acknowledged. And maybe that's where real thinking begins, not with answers, but with the courage to sit with the question we avoided for years. Questions without immediate solution, without social approval, without guarantees, just honest questions.